Welcome to the Shulamite Podcast, an extension of Shulamite Ministries and Shulamite.com, with weekly interviews and teaching with author and speaker Martha Kilpatrick and hosted by John Enslow. This weekly podcast is a way to stay connected to the ministry. So come experience anointed messages, not giving just another method, but a living impartation.
So I have a trigger that I'm going to just share with y'all. It illustrates a trigger and the purpose and how it works. So there's a little situation inside my family, and it was like a truck ran over me. And I said to my son and his precious wife were here, and we sat down in this, and my son said, "Mom, why were you so weak in the face of this issue? And you needed to say no, and you didn't say no to a situation." And I went, then I need to know what's wrong with me, that it's a character flaw. I've talked about this a little bit, haven't I? So this situation exposed me, and I said to them, we were sitting in this little group here, and the Holy Spirit came. And all I can say is that I said, this is a character flaw. If I can't say no when no is called for, and when I need to say no, and I can't do it, then something's wrong with me. And it's a character flaw. And my daughter-in-law said, "Oh, maybe you have a wonderful character." And I said, "No, I really do have a flaw here." "Thank you, darling, but I know something's wrong with me. And it's character." So I said, "Lord, show me what it is." And it was a trigger to my childhood. And how I got there was just prayer. I don't know. It was very complicated. I just said, "Oh, I know what the flaw is." And it's a flaw that Jesus will not tolerate. Fear. I was afraid. And so I began to pray and ask the Lord to show me the fear. Oh my gosh, my whole childhood was full of fear. If it wasn't one thing, it was another. I don't want to expose my parents. They were wonderful, and I adore them, and I have forgiven. Huge time I've spent dealing with that. But this was the sin and the character flaw, because Jesus doesn't tolerate fear of man. So I had to go back with the Lord and remember and see it from the light of being an adult, and realizing. And Jacqueline helped me so much. The Lord was telling her things about it. And I remember I was such a weird child. I had a tree in the backyard that I would climb literally to 2 floors, equal to 2 floors on a building, if not more. I was up so high that I could see the town way, way away. And then I'd scoot on down from the tree. And my mother stood in her kitchen window and watched me go up and come down. And my sister thought, she must be having too much fun. I want to get in on it. So she gets in on the bottom limb, and she can't get back down. and she said, "Go get me a ladder, Martha." So I did everything she said for me to do. So I got the ladder, and I was getting it up to the tree. My mother said, "What are you doing with that big ladder?" I said, "Well, Mary's got to get down." She said, "Mary can get herself down." So I went, "Oh, I can't use my ladder to save my sister." And I didn't see what she was afraid of, because I was always skimming up and down that big tree. But she did finally jump off and solve the problem. But I went back to so many aspects of making me afraid. And I remember reading something. I used to go to the library to learn how to be a parent. And one of the things I read is, please know that the smallest practical thing you do for your child makes them secure. If you put a Kleenex box next to them, then that child knows he'll have everything he needs. But we as human beings have a tendency to put fear on our children to control them. And so my father had a temper, I'll say, and it seemed to always be directed at me. And that's where I developed an inner core of fear. And many other situations in my childhood were, and in my young adult life too, things that produce fear. And so I'm telling you this for your sake, because I feel like healing is an issue in our midst. And it's not just healing of a broken heart or a broken foot, but it's what you experienced as a child becomes a form of sin. And so I'm looking at it, and I'm seeing my childhood through different eyes than I've ever looked at it. And in that childhood was an awful lot of fear. And I had basically, humanly, climbing that tree, I had no fear of the tree, but boy, did I have fear of my daddy. And that had to be resolved. And I thought it had been resolved because he was precious in so many ways. Precious father. When we first moved to Tennessee, we lived in a rented house, and you had to draw water from a thing outside and bring water in the house. But we would live there a few months till we found something other. But anyway, I wanted to carry that bucket. And I would beg him, he would say, it's too heavy for you. And I'd say, I want to carry the bucket. You know what he did? He took hold of it, and he took all the weight of the bucket and let me hold on to the bucket and think that I was helping. So there's all kinds of things in childhood that we are what we were as a child. We are what was done to us and failed to be done to us. And where there was lack in my childhood, there was fear and uncertainty. So anyway, I have had a trigger. And I feel like it's really been something to resolve an issue. I'm not finished because I have to recover from fear. And as Jacqueline said to me, this is your wound. This is what hurt you as a child. And you have to, God will take care of it. God, he gave me a promise that said, I will heal your wounds. I went, what does that mean? Well, now I know. I asked the question, what does that mean? You'll heal my wounds. I don't have I don't have any injuries. And though I've long since forgotten the question to him, he brought it back up so that I could forgive and let go and accept and forgive. And I feel my sicknesses have been resolved with healing. My medical reports are glowing. There's absolutely nothing everything is healthy. My liver is working. No, you're not interested in that. But I'm not ruled and owned by fear. I'm getting healed, and he's doing it just by showing me what it felt like to the child. And that's why Ecclesiastes says God requires the past. What does that mean? It means that we have to deal with it. And we have to be willing to be a little introspective, if you can put that word on it. But I said, okay, you heal my inner wound, and then you heal my body. And so much of it is connected.
So he writes a storyline into our life, sovereignly, that's written into our life. And then we're given the opportunity to go back and continually work out that storyline. Mm-hmm. We don't get to escape it.
we get to work it out again.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
triggering, those triggers that have happened to you, the triggers that have happened to me, are literally giving me opportunity to focus and face my story that God has written on my life and really make peace with it. And so I can go into a trigger and be freaked out and triggered, and you know, triggers aren't fun, because we've, you know, okay, I'll speak for me. I've avoided things in my life, facing things, and so all of a sudden then the trigger is me having to face it. It pisses me off. I mean, it really makes me angry that I have to face something that I wanted to not face
And not remember.
and not deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And God's like, no, this is the story I've written on your life.
Mm-hmm.
This is it. I've written this story, and you'll have to face it, and I will give you every ability to face it and to deal with it and to sovereignly accept it, embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes back around, the trigger comes back around, it brings me right back to face with it. And I have to say, okay, there's all the emotions that were there from the old trigger, from the old wound, the old trauma, the old, you know, whatever. And now I have to focus on it. I have to deal with it. So I think it's incredible kindness that we deal with it. It's not fun, but it's incredible kindness that he allows us to deal over and over and over with our story.
Mm-hmm. And it takes over and over to resolve it.
It does. It's not like it, you know, it's a one rodeo and you're done. It's over and over.
We hope you've enjoyed the Shulamite podcast. For all the latest from Shulamite Ministries, please visit us at shulamite.com, where you'll find Martha's daily devotions, posts from getalongwithgod.com, and the online library of all of Martha's writings. At shulamite.com, downloading the free Shulamite app is easy, and livingchristianbooks.com is only a click away. Thank you for joining us on this journey to discover a God worth knowing.